Hello, this is Kinch Rendell, and welcome to Your Freedom Podcast. Today we're going to review and show you how to see the on-page items that you can use to help your search engine optimization. That is, to show up for free on the search engines. First, let's have a little background on me and why I'm going to talk about this. Starting back in 2002, we started riptidehosting.com. And with this site, I was in charge of not only the site, but also getting the marketing going. And a big part of marketing that's free is your search engine optimization. In addition to that, for probably 7 years now, I've worked with this site to get them to show up for free. So let's go see a little proof in the pudding about search engine optimization. It's about showing up for free. So over here, I search for Texas metal buildings. Right now, my location for Google is Houston, Texas. And the number 2 guy right here is that site I just showed you. They show up there. Let's come over and do a search for Denver server colocation. And riptidehosting.com shows up. That is our site. This one right here. Let's see what else shows up in here as we segue. We have another company. Who's number 4? Oh, that's another site I set up years ago. For quite a few years it was a single page, and now it has 2 or 3 pages. It's all text, nothing but text. So this brings us to our first point about on-page SEO items. What's most important? Text, text, and more text. And let's explain exactly what I mean by that. We have text up here in the very title, and you notice it doesn't say Riptide Hosting in the title anywhere. It has some key phrases that I care about, that I'd want to show up for search engine optimization. This right here says Riptide Hosting. Wow, it's text. This is all text. Why text? Well, Google and search engines can read text. Images? I don't think they exactly know what all the images are. One nice thing is, though, if you have images on your site, you can add an alt tag and tell them what the image is. And that way, when you do a search for, let's go back to Texas metal building. Sometimes you'll get the banner images right here. Let's see if we can do that. And that's showing. If we click on images, how did they know what these things were? They must have had alt tags, which is a description when you put in the image, so they know. That is yet another place that you can use to put your keywords and key phrases that describe what the images are. So how do we see this text? How do we see, let's say, something called meta tags that we should all have? And once again, all of this is outlined on Your Freedom Podcast on Page SEO tips. So we're just going to go down this list. So we're going to talk about, let's say, how do we view the source to see something called meta tags and meta descriptions? Many people say they're not important. Hey, they can only help. Let's come over here to Riptide Hosting. We're viewing in Firefox right now, and we'll talk about this plugin down here as well. But if we have no plugins and we're in any internet browser, try right-clicking somewhere not on top of an image. You should come down here, View Page Source. What we're seeing here is the HTML of the page. And I already showed you the title tag up here. For our site, it says Dedicated Windows Server Hosting. Those are keywords I care about. Well, if we search over here for title, or we see title right here, guess what we're seeing? The exact text that shows up there. Once again, if you have nothing, add your keywords for that page. And if you have your company name in all of them, you can change that and replace it with the keywords for that page. After that, some things we will not see on the page itself, but we can see back here that you should check on your site to see if you have is meta name description and meta name keywords. This is just telling the search engines, back in the day I think it was even more important, what is the description of the site? So we start with riptidehosting.com has over 10 years of experience providing dedicated Windows servers. And the second one is keywords. What are the keywords or key phrases, separated by commas, for this site? Now I showed you those couple things are in there. Let's also see, I kept talking about an image and an alt tag. Let's find an image tag. I did Control F, or if you go up to Find, get this little box down here. I want to see an image tag. I doubt a separator has anything. Okay, so we have an image right here, another separator. I think I went one too far. Image source, read more. So in the older browsers, if you put your mouse over top of an image, you would see text. That was the alt text. So it's ALT, read more about virtual servers. So it lets them know this image is talking about virtual servers. If you have a picture of a barn, you say Texas Metal Barn, or you say barn, or Colorado barn, or learn how to build a barn, barn plans. You add that to each of your images just to really let the search engines know what is on that image, and oh, it might even help with your search engine optimization. I believe it does. So now we've viewed some source the old-fashioned way of right-clicking and saying view page source, and that was in Firefox. Let's come over and look at Chrome, right-clicking on the text area, not and view page source once again. There you go. We're going to see a title tag, we're going to see a meta description, meta keywords, and you can see all the information on this site, all the text that shows up. So now we know we can put behind an image, all these images, we can have an alt tag to tell them what they are. We actually removed a lot of the images from the site and we'll probably add some back. But once again, the big key here is a search engine can read and see text because it shows up in the HTML. An image, it doesn't necessarily know what that image is. So on this site, how did we show up higher and higher and higher search engines? We added more and more text. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to make yourself add text. You're like, oh, I'll get to that later. But it's the key for the search engines to show up. As an example, the fact that this site shows up at all, it has no links into it. I never tried to do that. I just simply put out information that hopefully was helpful for people to understand things I'd answered over and over again. If people find it helpful, guess what? They might just link to your site. Okay, so we talked about meta tags, meta descriptions. Let's talk about a little plugin here. This little guy was installed in Firefox. I believe we're giving a shout out here to jackspirko.com, a site you should definitely check out. Let's see over here. We talked about keywords, description, page content. I thought I noted exactly what this was. Let's just hover over it and click on it. Right click. So it is Quirk, Q-U-I-R-K, search status. You can install this, and instead of having to view source, you can go look at your competition or any site you want. Say, hey, these people are showing up really well for this query I want to show up for. You can come over here and click on meta tags. And for the site, in the case of this one, it just shows you one little simple piece. Let's come back over to Riptide Hosting, right click on it and say meta tags. And guess what you get? You get title, description, keywords, robots. So you can see what this page on this site, the title, the description, the keywords. Not every site will have these, as the last one didn't, but if you want to see what somebody has, there you go. You can also come over here and right click and you can see what else. Highlight keywords. Let's say, man, this site's showing up really well for servers. Wow, I typed in server. Look how many times server shows up. So part of search engine optimization is really using your keywords and key phrases in your text on your page. And guess what? Google really believe, I think they really care about servers. Now don't stuff your pages, and you want to make sure all the text you add is relevant, that somebody actually reads it, it's going to make sense to them. If you overdo this, the search engines will penalize you for that and go, okay, you're really just trying to show up for Denver server, Denver server. So don't put that on there too many times. Make sure it's still English. Also make sure all your text is displayed and not behind images. That was a trick people used years and years ago that once they figured that out, no go, search engines figure that out and penalize you. Also with this plugin, you get to see a page rank, Alexa ranking. Not super important, I would say. Let's click back over here. He shows up very well for his key search terms. Page rank is probably 1 out of 10. Yep, and Riptide, I haven't checked this in forever. What, maybe a 3 out of 10? Which some people say is A-okay and good. So let's think. Another thing I always like to suggest is showing up in your area, especially if you only sell in a local area, your local business. Make sure you include things like Denver if you're in Denver, Houston if you're in Houston, your little city if you're in a little city, an area. Make sure you do that because it's a lot easier to show up for those search terms than to show up for server hosting. Let's try that and just see. Oh, we're still in images. Server hosting, Rackspace, they're probably the biggest company I know of here in the United States. I go, okay, where do I get a lot of my customers? I think I'm in Denver. So would I want to put server hosting more so, or would I want to focus in on Denver server hosting? Look who's number 1 and number 2. File West, Handy Networks, HostWorks. We're not as large as those guys, but we've been working at the search engine optimization for quite a while. That's another thing, this is set to Houston. So you want to change your search engine area, if you really care about the area you're in, or you want to see if you show up for the country, change this. Click on change location, enter US for United States, set. It redid the search query. Luckily for Denver server hosting, guess what? We still show up well. One thing I'm very proud of is terminal server hosting. We show up number 2. I noticed a few months ago we started getting more and more customers from outside our local area. We usually get them, but not all at one time or so much. I started thinking about that. I wonder why. Well, our page dedicated to terminal server hosting worked. The search engines figured out what it was and said, hey, this is relevant. They actually offer this service. Let's show it. All right, let's go through and look at what else can we talk about and learn. So we had a page title, a little quick review here. So up top, each of your pages, let's make sure you're using that page title for the keywords, key phrases. All the text we can put on here, the better. Your company name, let's keep your company name out of the page title, except for your contact page. And make sure in your contact page and every page, if you have text, make sure it's text. I'm highlighting it to let you know if you try to highlight text on an image, it won't highlight. The whole image will light up. Let's see if we can prove that real quick. This is an image. I'm clicking. Oh, that's not text. There are some sites that basically they are all images with text on them. Yes, it can look really good, but the search engines may have no clue what's on there and probably don't. So each page, go after keywords, key phrases, and dedicate that to the text, title, image, alt tags if it's relevant. And something else I found very recently was a site called webstatsdomain.com. You type in the site you want to look at, gives you some information up here that who knows how they're guessing what a site is worth. I guarantee you can't buy a site for $1,100. It's worth way too much to him. What I like about this site is you scroll down, organic keywords for wdnb.com. So I'd say if you want to look at some competition sites, this may show you some keywords that they're showing up for that aren't in their meta tags or something. So they show position 1, 2, 2, 3, 7, 7, 8, 9 for these different keywords. Thought that was very interesting to be able to see that and say, hey, kind of go look at somebody and see what they're showing up for. Metal Cabins, Texas. We did not optimize that site to show up for that, but obviously it shows up very well. Barn Dominium, yes, we probably came up with the word, or at least was probably one of the first sites with that word on there. So that definitely shows up and makes sense because we have it on the site a ton. In review, just remember, text is key. The more content you have, the better. The more you can put on there, the better. What would be helpful to people that find your site? Make sure you have that content, the photos, videos. If you have videos, have descriptions of videos of what that is, just like I do on this podcast. Give some clues about that so the search engines can find your post and then link to your video or to your social site. Hopefully this has been helpful, and it's very simple to do. It just takes a little bit of effort. And always add more content if you can. It's like being a blogger. Why do they show up? Search engines like coming back to sites that are continually adding text. So make sure your text is relevant. Include your keywords and key phrases for that page. Give it several months and hopefully you show up. One thing I did forget to cover. How would you know if your site's even being found by Google? If you have a little tool unplugged in here, it's pretty easy. Link report. I believe is the one I want. Oh, nope. Show index pages. And you can simply go to Google and type in site, and your website. So let's say you have a new site. You can go to the search engines and ask them to index it. And then you can come over here once you think it's indexed or you're not sure and type it in. And it says there's 23 pages for riptidehosting.com that are linked in there. That way you'll know, hey, is my new page showing up? I added a page last week. Did they come back and search it? Well, here you can find out. So once again, on page, very easy and very powerful. My sites have not had a lot of inbound links, and do not go pay for tons of inbound links. Google came out in 2012 and figured out how to get rid of most of that junk, or most of those links as counting for anything positive. So don't do that. Don't pay someone $300 a month to do that. Let me know if you have any questions. You can find us at yourfreedompodcast.com.